Hello, property nomads. Hope you are doing well. The Chinese property market has had quite a lot of issues over the last couple of years, and with the Chinese government quite recently announcing a bit of quasi-quantitative easing, there's a report out there that suggests that that's not going to be good enough to end the property market crisis. Now, why is the Chinese property market important when we're based in the UK and we're meant to be looking at the UK market? Well, the reason being is that when you're looking at bigger economies, when you are looking at some of the world's very biggest economies, normally what happens in times of distress, if things happen in the very largest places, normally that will then filter through and affect most, if not every other single country in the world. Now, whilst it is very challenging to take all the Chinese data at face value, every now and then there'll be something that comes out that makes quite a lot of sense. And this is one of them. So this was written via Bloomberg Markets. Basically, what Beijing is looking to do is it's looking to step up support for the property market in China. But there are fears over there that that's not going to be good enough to turn the market around. The market's gone too far in one direction, and it's probably a lot worse than we are being told in the rest of the world. So what happened on Friday? Regulators told banks to meet all, and I quote, reasonable, end quote, funding needs from property developers. This came after a report showed that new home prices in major cities in China had decreased at the fastest level in the last 8 years. That's quite concerning for a very, very large economy, especially an economy that's had issues with Evergrande and other big developers in the last couple of years. Beijing are also prepared, potentially, to provide at least $137 billion of low-cost financing to urban village renovation and affordable housing programs, and that's going to be potentially funded through something they call a PSL, which is a pledged supplemental lending. And that is a controversial tool that sometimes is dubbed as China's version of QE. It helped a housing downturn, or it helped end a housing downturn, I should say, back in 2015. And there are hopes over in China that by doing this quasi QE, that it might help to avert a housing downturn in late 23, early 2024. However, it's very unlikely that is going to happen. Apparently, the key difference now being that the renovation program targets bigger cities, and apparently they only account for 20% of the nation's new home sales. So, in a nutshell, most excess housing stock is in the smaller cities, so that might not do much to soak up developers' excess inventories, like the previous program did. In a nutshell, it smacks of desperation. It smacks of a government that knows it's got an issue, that will potentially fudge the data, so it looks like it doesn't have much of an issue, but underlying it probably has a big issue, and they'll do anything they can in order to support that market. Now, by doing potentially $137 billion, is that then going to have the opposite effect, where it's going to create bubbles and it's going to further stimulate the property market in, negatively impacting it? We just don't know. The reason for that is that China keeps its cards close to its chest, and even if something serious were to happen, or things were a lot worse than they were letting on, we probably wouldn't be none the wiser. When something catastrophic happens, then I imagine that we will know, but then by that time it's way too late. So it's worth keeping an eye on the Chinese property market. It's worth keeping an eye on that potential data, because that can have a massive ripple effect for the rest of the world. And I've said this, even a broken clock is right twice a day, but I've been saying for the last few years that things are going to get a lot worse before they end up getting a lot better. So ultimately, let's watch this space and see what happens. Thank you for subscribing to the Property Nomads YouTube channel. If you haven't already done so, please go and press that subscribe button. It does us a massive favor. Also means you get updated when new content is released as well. We're finding that the more people that are subscribing, the more exposure we're getting. That means the more that our message is getting out there, and that is incredibly useful moving forward. So thank you, and see you in the next video.